2019 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We're glad you're with us today. We will begin, as we always do, with an invocation, and Reverend Jim Walford from First United Methodist Church is here to lead us in prayer. Please stand.
And before I pray, I'd just like to say yesterday I was listening to NPR, and they happened to have a brief interview with Tom Hanks. As you know, he's playing Mr. Rogers in a movie that's out right now, and he said something I thought just really grabbed my attention. He said, with Fred Rogers, there was no them and us. There was just us. With that, let's go to prayer. Oh, Lord our God, we come to you and give you thanks for the fact that it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Even though it's cloudy outside, there is so much to be thankful for and so much beauty to be found. Neighbors who care for one another, a place where kindness is expressed and love is demonstrated. Lord, we live in a community that oftentimes it seems as if there are a whole variety of values. And at times we can find ourselves differing with our opinions, and we can even seem on the surface to have competing interest. But in the end, Lord, it's just us. And so, Lord, I just ask that you would have your hand upon these who are civil servants who have come to make decisions to impact the neighborhood. And we pray that you would grant them wisdom, that they might have a heart and mind that is indeed full of compassion and concern for the neighborhood. And Lord, that even in those times in which decisions might be difficult to be made, that in the end it'll be something to benefit us all. And so we ask your grace and for your goodness to be found in this room as they do their deliberations. We ask all this in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. Always glad to see you. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Master McCollum.
Here.
Master Berry.
Here.
Master Putman.
Here.
Master Moran.
Here.
Master Southard.
Here.
Thank you. You have before you the minutes of the November 12, 2019 Fiscal Court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Move to accept.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions, comments, additions, corrections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have two appointments to make to the Cooperative Extension District Board. I've been consulting with Extension staff, and Bill Gentry, the current chairman, is rolling off, and after consulting, I'm recommending Heather Fade to replace Bill. Heather is very active in 4-H at the Extension Service and has extensive knowledge of their operations. Leanne Scott's term right now is ending, and she is eligible for being reappointed, and I've served with her on that district council, and she does an excellent job, so I'm going to recommend her reappointment. So recommending the appointment of Heather Fade and Leanne Scott to the Extension Council Board.
Do you need a motion? I move that we accept.
A second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. A couple of weeks ago, we originated a proposed zoning ordinance for solar energy systems in the county, and it went to the Planning Commission for some hearings and consultation with both public comment and input from solar energy companies who are interested in locating here. We are now having Brian Bishop resubmit to us for origination this same draft ordinance with some tweaks. Is that fair to say?
That's correct, sir.
You mind covering some of those?
Yeah, there was a substantial amount of input at the meeting, and instead of rewriting it on the fly, we thought it would be best to bring it back, make those edits, and then bring it back to the fiscal court for origination so that we can go forward at the December 3rd Plan Commission meeting. A lot of the things that were brought up were included, and there were things that we just did not know about. Like, for example, when they are reclaiming the land, they do not take out infrastructure below 3 feet, which we had no clue about, which is another thing that's included in the ordinance. We talked about some screening. We talked about bonding, things like that. So we felt like we've included most of the changes. Roughly 90%, I would say, of the changes were added. I think it was a pretty lively debate, and things went fairly well. So,
You want to highlight a couple of the others that might be different? I think.
yeah. For example, in the first section, section 30.0, second section actually, 30.02, we added substations. That was just an oversight on our part. We thought that was included, but one of the technical advisors asked that be spelled out. And if you flip the page, or on mine, if you flip the page to all level 3 SESs shall be screened with an 8-foot tall fence. And then we basically go into a long, lengthy discussion about buffering. For example, we did not want to require buffering around farms that were off in the distance or if they had substantial tree growth already. So there was a lot of debate about that and what the words actually meant. So most of the changes were due to clarity, for lack of a better word to describe it.
And a couple of those things that you mentioned, including natural tree growth would qualify as a buffer, natural landform. So if you're over a hill and out of sight from an adjacent property, that would count as a buffer.
Correct. And there was just certain things that we thought was implied in the ordinance that they had questions about, so we wanted to make sure that we got that included.
Parcel boundaries with no proximity to residential dwellings shall not require screening.
Correct.
What does that mean, though? Proximity.
If it's near residence, I mean,
How near? I'd like to have a definition. 200 feet, 400 feet, 500 feet, mile? What this means?
well, what are you suggesting, sir?
400 feet
400 feet
from the dwelling.
from the dwelling or the property line? Where would you like to see that?
I'm assuming from the property line to...
Okay, if you would go back to item C, setback requirements for level 3 SES shall be as follows. All equipment shall be at least 25 feet from the perimeter property lines of the project area. No interior property line setback shall be required if the project spans multiple contiguous properties. Number 3, all equipment shall be located at least 100 feet from any residential structure. So you're saying you want that 100 to be 400?
No.
Screening. I don't, if it's 400 feet or some distance from the dwelling, at some point it gets so small, I mean, it should be, and what I'm thinking about is somebody up on a hill. I mean, you can't screen it, really. You've got a hill that's 50 feet high, and you go down in the valley, the house is not more, it's more than a half a mile away. So why would you have to screen?
It doesn't.
Well, I think that's part of the reason for a site plan is that we can't possibly predict everything that's going to happen on these 500 to 1,000 acre tracts. So that's the reason why the site plan was such a big deal for us. But I mean, that's something we would gladly consider.
So this would only be the level 3s?
Correct.
And that'd be okay.
The other thing, I think the spirit of the no proximity sentence is the idea that if almost as far as you can see in one direction, you really don't hardly see any other residences, why have to screen that? You know, if you're a level 3. Then level 1, level 2s don't have to worry about this screening regulation at all. So, and you have changed the barbed wire requirement, as Magistrate McCollum and I were having our own spirited debate yesterday.
Yes, that was definitely discussed.
And you altered it slightly.
It is. We specifically wanted to address that being near a structure, a residential structure.
My apologies to Magistrate McCollum. I thought that tweak was already in there, but it's in there now. And
Well, I think, Judge, that's another thing we talked about. We thought it was implied, but some of the producers wanted more clarification.
yeah.
It's really wasn't fair. I was at your hearing, and Brad wasn't. So I was trying to engage him into a betting opportunity, knowing that I'd already knew the
I should have
answer.
known. I should have known. Any other questions about this?
Yes, one more.
Okay.
On the F, lighting shall be prohibited. I don't think that's clear. I mean, you should be able to have, just like a regular farm has a light for safety around their buildings, you know, and stuff. So this lighting shall be prohibited seems too extreme to me.
Well, what it says, except that required by federal or state regulations. And what are those?
That doesn't require me to have a night light on my farm, but I got one.
Well,
Well, I think what the intention of that is that these solar farms are not just eyesores to the community.
lit up
I
at
know
night.
the
Exactly.
purpose, but it's not clear to what I can have. But if I've got the building that has all the transformers or the inverters and all that stuff in it, I should be able to put a night light there on it, so you know, the cameras and stuff that I've got around it to make sure that nobody.
Oh, we have no problem with that whatsoever, so we're open to language there.
Well, I don't know what language to put. Just saying lighting is prohibited just sounds. Why prohibit lighting?
is there in industrial, commercial or industrial zone properties, are there state regulations that
We
speak to that?
I'm sorry. So basically, if there was a site plan that had lighting involved,
Well, you said it says lighting shall be prohibited except that required by federal or state regulations. What are those?
we do not know all the regulations that
Okay.
cover these items. So we wanted to make sure that we did not infringe on any of those other statutes.
And Master McCollum's point's well taken. What you're trying to avoid here is a solar farm that's lit up like noontime in the
Correct.
middle of the night and infringes on.
Yeah, I
quality
mean,
of life
that's
for neighbors.
not a problem whatsoever. And that's
But
probably,
safety lights and things like that, I wouldn't throw in that category, right?
and that's an example of one of the things that we discussed is like, from our standpoint, lighting on buildings and things like that is just a given. It's not anything that we thought would need to be regulated. So, but to Magistrate McCollum's point, if he thinks it needs more clarification, we're happy to do it.
I think it needs more clarification, because just saying lighting is prohibited, to me says I can't have a night light, I can't have like an RECC, what they call those things, doesn't dawn light, that costs you $25 a month or whatever it is. I think you should be able to have those.
Well, Brian,
Well, and
there would
you
still be
got-
a site plan, is that correct?
Correct.
all these?
For the-
So you might be able to solve some of that, because I see what you're trying to do. You might be able to do that by just adding the word excessive before lighting. Now, that obviously does provide a point of discretion there, but that is something that could be addressed in the site plan.
Well,
On
absolutely.
an as-needed basis. If it's in a residential neighborhood and it's lit up
Well, and
crazy,
true.
it's, and if it's out in the middle of nowhere, it may be different. So it could be a situational thing.
And you guys still have the final say. Like, for example, if this was something we missed, you could change that when it came back to the
You're
fiscal
going to
court.
have another public hearing
Correct.
about this, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
December 3rd.
Is-
I know on the street lights, if you notice, they're around the cloverleaf, where I can't think of the name of the old Barrett house. They got the big fence around it and everything. If you'll look, they bent the lights down so they would not shine over into their things. And I don't think there's any requirement for that, but I mean, I don't want to interfere with neighbors and shining lights in their houses and stuff like that either, but I should be able to put a night light up at
If we,
certain height.
if we insert the word excessive lighting in F there and make that part of the public hearing debate, and potentially as part of the site plan process to determine, is that acceptable? Is that okay with everybody? Excessive lighting in F.
Thank you, Brian.
No, no worries.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Any other questions? I think it's been a good deliberative process, and again, this is going back for a public hearing.
Yep. December 3rd, 6 p.m., third floor of the city building.
December 3rd.
Yes, sir.
So I'll have the clerk read the resolution.
Resolution originating a text amendment pursuant to KRS 100.211 to add a new article and/or section to the County of Henderson Code of Ordinances to be codified in Appendix A, zoning regarding solar energy systems. Whereas Kentucky Revised Statute Chapter 100 provides for the adoption of zoning texts and maps as well as providing for amendments, and whereas the County of Henderson and the Henderson City County Planning Commission have recognized the need for zoning regulations that promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. and facilitate orderly and harmonious development and the visual character of the community by enacting and amending the Henderson County Code of Ordinances Appendix A, zoning, also known as the 2015 Final Ordinance Number 030415. And whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court deems it in the best interest of Henderson County to originate and propose a text amendment to the Henderson County Code of Ordinances Appendix A, zoning pursuant to KRS 100.211 by adding a new article and/or section regarding the regulation of solar energy systems. Whereas this court has previously generated text with regard to solar energy systems, and the Planning Commission previously held a hearing thereon, wherein multiple comments and suggested revisions were received and incorporated into the attached text, and the Fiscal Court seeks to refer the amended language back to the Planning Commission in the interest of time. Now therefore be it resolved that the Henderson County Fiscal Court hereby originates and proposes an amendment to the text of the Henderson County Code of Ordinances Appendix A, zoning. The proposed amendment is set forth in Exhibit A, attached hereto. This amendment is hereby referred to the Henderson City County Planning Commission as required by KRS 100.211. The Henderson City County Planning Commission shall hold at least one public hearing after proper notice and make a recommendation back to the Henderson County Fiscal Court within 60 days of the date of receipt of the proposed text amendment.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments?
I'm on a committee that's dealing with some of the rules and regulations with the getting this put together, and I feel like, plus I also farm, and there's a possibility for some personal gain, so I'm going to abstain from this.
Thanks.
I also, since our last meeting, I've been approached, my family has, about this, so I'm going to abstain as well.
Thank you. Any other questions? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I will also
Abstain.
Abstain.
two abstentions, and I will also vote yes. Okay.
Could I bring up one other point? And I apologize. I've had several people contact me saying they didn't know about the last hearing that we had, and it just brought up an idea. We may not have a way to resolve it, but if people wanted to get notice from the city and county, it would be nice if there was some way we could put this on an email list where every time something, if you wanted to ask to be on it, where you just had a broad email or some way, because no disrespect to the Gleaner now, but those notices come out in that little 2-page section that most people don't read anymore. I mean, you got the A and the B section, and after you read that in 2 minutes, then you don't read much more of the other. So people said they missed it, didn't know about that meeting.
You're talking about the Planning Commission's public hearing.
Well, just everything to do with the city and the county. I just think being more open is better for everybody. And if there, with technology the way it is today, there ought to be some way that people can get notice without having to pay for a paper or having, I don't know. I mean,
And I'll remind everybody that our meeting schedule, the Fiscal Court meeting schedule, is posted on our website. The minutes of past meetings and the agenda for the future meeting are on our website. So we'll reiterate that those are available to folks.
If you sign up for the website, we get alert every time Kirk puts the agenda out in the minutes.
We'll try to spread that.
We need to spread that then. That's a good idea. So what do you have to do?
Sign up on our website.
Sign up on the website.
For notifications. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Debbie Edwards from Humane Society and Animal Control is with us for her report. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to start by giving my apologies for missing last month. I explained to Kurt, it's totally my fault. Just to be perfectly honest, I opened my planner and filled it in for the last Tuesday of the month all through the year. In October, happened to have 5 weeks, so I was a week behind. So please accept my apologies. I do have just a few updates. I know you guys have the financials as well, if you have any questions. I know I told you in October that we were starting the $25 owner surrender fee. It has actually been a very welcoming and positive approach. People are actually on board with it and wanting to help take care of their dog because they can no longer house them. Of course, there are always going to be situations where it's just not possible, and we understand that, and we're working with the public on that, but it has actually been pretty positive feedback so far. So I'm pretty pleased about that. I did send in my quarterly report last month. Typically, we would go down back to closing at 5 o'clock with the time change. We've decided to go ahead and stay open till 6 to better serve the community. A lot of people don't get off work till 5, and they just can't possibly get there. We're actually looking to possibly adjust some longer hours, maybe even on a Saturday as well, to just get the public in there a little bit more and be more accessible. So we are actually staying at our regular hours, 12 to 6. We have combined some forces with all of the animal crazy rescue people in town. We've combined with New Hope and Pay It Forward, Robin Dance, doing a few fundraisers to try to combine our efforts and bring a whole lot more awareness to the town. We've done a few fundraisers here lately. We've been invited to give some presentations, and it's been so exciting. I can't hardly sleep at night just thinking about what we can do tomorrow, because two heads are always better than one, and we've been wanting to work together for quite a while. So it's only moving positive from here. We have a lot of volunteer programs going on. We've also got, for animal control, CACA, the Kentucky Animal Care, has free online training. It's new this year, so we've required our animal control officers to complete that, since it's state recognized, before sending them out to training. Everybody in the office is taking this training, including myself. So it's very interesting, and everybody on staff is eager to take it and learn. And then we will work to send out to additional module trainings. We just finished the last 2 animal control officers euthanasia training this month. So they are very excited to learn as much as they possibly can out in the field. They're doing an amazing job. I'm sure you guys have seen the new PACT law that was signed for cruelty to animals. So we are pretty thrilled about that. Animal cruelty is now going to be a felony, so that is absolutely amazing. I believe I told you about this education that we're starting. Animal control is going to be going to the school systems and doing an education seminar with the students, with animals, to teach them how to handle, how to care for, and pet ownership, responsibility, how to not interact with animals, and just basic education. So we're pretty excited about that. And that's all I have.
Debbie, are you full staff now?
Yes, finally.
Yeah.
Yes.
With animal control, are you full staff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have 3 full-time animal control officers. Bridget is overseeing animal control as far as the direction of where they go first on that chain of command. And then, of course, then there would be me. And they are doing very well.
Excellent.
I see the financials kind of going the wrong way. But I noticed there on your cleaning supplies in October it was $1,803, and for the 4-month span it was $3,600. Was that due to the parvo outbreak
Yes.
and some things like that?
Yes, sir.
Just excessive cleaning needing to be done?
Yes, sir. And, we are utilizing a building that is
Got it.
very limited on even standing at this point. We've had a lot of things break down and a lot of things that have had to be fixed, and we had no choice. We're having fundraisers basically every month, and we're doing okay, but the audit that we had, was probably $8,000 of the deficit that you're seeing. So we're we're hanging in there, but it is a struggle every single month.
Well, appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think the changes you made to your team are producing noticeable results to the positive.
Yes, we are so excited. We now have RD as the marketing. Between her and I combining forces, I feel like with our board that we have on right now, there's just nothing that we really can't conquer. And we're pretty excited to all be working together.
Excellent. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
You'll notice on your agenda that your detention center reports, but Jailer Brady didn't submit any. You have in your packet the sheriff's monthly reports, and after review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
I move to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Can I ask a question? This would not be included in our financial statements that we got. The money that's coming in
It's
now.
reflected only in revenues on that full financial report. Brenda, would you mind coming up to the mic?
I'm sorry.
When we reflect what we get into the overarching financial report are basically the revenues submitted to us from the sheriff's tax collections.
Yes, for the month that we're currently in, you will see an increase in real estate and tangible property. That represents the October 2019 collections. This is for revenue. And then the sheriff's fee pooling is included in sheriff pooling, which is revenue 014549.
Right, and it's showing 221,000 in the report that we've got.
Yes, sir.
So that this report is included in this report?
As
You mean
as
this
far
report?
as receipts received by the treasurer's office, yes.
I mean, so we're only at 17%, and that includes what we just did.
If they have forwarded the receipts to the treasurer's office, everything has been recorded through. Was actually Friday, the
6th.
20. Okay, today's date is for the claims. The deposits were actually recorded through Friday, the 22nd.
Okay. Thank you.
This is the monthly reconciliation of their accounts.
Right.
Any other questions? So I'm sorry, do we get a motion to approve and accept?
I think we already did.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. County Clerk's report.
And just for clarification, what I talk about every month is for the previous month. So it would just be through October, last day of October. So if you're comparing reports that you have, if that's up to date, then there would be a difference there. So
Okay. You're at 35% then from last month, which reconciles somewhat with.
Okay.
That didn't.
Thanks. Okay, so what I have, again, is October payments to the county for October 2019, excess fees in the amount of $86,068.09, and that's included in the total remitted to the county for $125,416.79. So.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions of Renisa? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Mr. Gold, your report.
Judge, I've got payments for jail fees collected today, 2 checks in the amount of $357.75, $318.75 in interest in the amount of $128.68, and $42.89 for a total of $848.07, and bringing the fiscal year total to date to $84,040.39.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions of Mr. Gold? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Treasurer Ryder?
I have a fund transferring within the current year's budget, which is transferring between the budgeted appropriation lines. In the general fund, transferring to the auditing appropriation line $25,000. Also in the general fund, transferring to the refunds appropriation line $14,000 for a total of $39,000 to be transferred from the contingent appropriation line.
Now, the transfer for auditing is obvious because we budgeted without fully understanding what the state was going to charge us for the audit that was finished in September.
It was fiscal year's 18 audit, which was finished in September of
And
this
it
year.
was like $38,000.
Well, not almost.
Almost. But it was $38,000.
Yes, sir.
It was merely a guess on our part to figure out what that was going to be, and then we're wrapping up an audit
The
that
19
will get us up to
the 19 audit, and we're anticipating the expense of that, which should be in the neighborhood of $18,000 or so.
And we also, out of that auditing line item, do we cover the cost of other audits as well?
Yes, your fee pooling offices and ancillary audits.
So that $60,000 was a guess, and we're going to be under that, so that's the reason for transferring funds, to make sure we can cover the rest of the year. And the refunds line item also has to help cover the revenue sharing from 4-Star with McLean, Webster, and Union County, and also refunds that might originate out of the Occupational Tax Office for companies that paid ahead, made credit payments, and didn't owe us that much, so we refunded them the difference.
Yes.
And we have to guesstimate on that too. So
It's possible to look at next year's budget and maybe the profit sharing of the 3 counties move it to a different line, but because of the timing of the budget and
right.
the notification of that, it didn't occur in this current year's budget.
We'll break that out. Yeah.
We need a motion to approve the transfers?
Yeah.
So made.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions about these? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Has the issue with the other 4 counties been solved now? Are we done with that issue?
Still in negotiation.
Okay.
Let's continue.
Thank you.
These are the bank balances after paying claims today. The day-to-day appropriation lines should be at approximately 41%. I have one additional claim from the road fund to Bill Hubiak in the amount of $4,215.64. This is for the county engineer training incentive, and it is a budgeted appropriation line.
We need a motion to pay claims. Yeah.
Okay. Make a motion to pay the claims, including the educational thing for.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions on claims? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed?
Thank you.
Just want to note, she mentioned that expenses, revenues should approximate 41%.
Yes, sir.
Of course, revenues are seasonal, but I want to point point out that general fund expenses as of today are at 32.8%. Road fund expenses as of today are at 28.3%. Jail fund expenses as of today are at 35.18%. Overall budget expenses are at 31.6%. So doing a good job of watching our pennies, and appreciate the work of the department heads and elected officials watching the budget. We're off to a good start almost 6 months through the year. So thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, if anybody in the audience would like to address the fiscal court for good of the county, please come forward. Mr. Hubiak?
Yes, sir, Judge. I have a few items to do. First thing off, we need to go out for our annual material bids for this year, for the upcoming year, and included in that bid, we want to also make sure that we include the Ohio Drive resurfacing and Ohio Drive concrete work for putting back in the aprons to the loading docks. Those items need to be specifically stated with some verbiage. Clerk, what day would we like to open them up in December?
We don't need to set a date.
We don't want?
We don't need to set a date at this time. Fuel bid we need to open on
Right,
December
immediately.
10th.
Okay. So, but we'll figure out, we'll do them all at one time with one posting, and that way they'll be in there. Okay.
Bill, what are we going to do about the fuel? Because I know we were written up by the auditors on that.
The fuel is going to have to be bid with each item will be done based on the current market price.
Excellent.
And then with a escalation in there of over the market price at the time of purchase.
So the wholesale price with the
That is
markup,
correct.
and that way.
Yeah,
okay,
so like if
excellent.
it's, I don't know, just for sake of argument, if they charge 10 cents over the market price, it'll be whatever
Right.
the wholesale price is on that given day of order plus 10 cents,
So
something
we're-
like that, but it'll be done like that. So
We're
it's-
bidding for the markup.
Yeah.
That's basically what we're doing.
Basically,
You
and
can give
I
us
think
the-
that's good. I
The
mean,
cheapest markup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Second item,
But-
more Trig Hooper.
Do you want to go ahead and make a
need to get a
motion
motion.
on the bidding process first?
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to allow road department to move forward on bidding out their bulk items for
So
the next
moved.
calendar year.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other questions on that? Obviously, it's something we do every year, and then we're adding the fuel component this year. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's right.
Second item, North Trig Hooper. The repurposed bridge deck from Wathen Lane has been set. It is finished being pinned together today. It'll be open to traffic by this afternoon. Unfortunately, Mother Nature's not going to let us grout the bridge deck in because the concrete, you can't pour it in the rain, but we will get to it as soon as the weather permits us to finish that up, but it'll be open to traffic this afternoon.
Will we stop the blacktop?
Blacktop has been finished. All the resurfacing has finished up last week. We're currently finished up. We're waiting on all the billing on that right now. They've closed the plant.
But were we stopped on North Trig Hooper?
Yes,
Will
it's
we-
already done.
Will we gravel from the end of the blacktop to the bridge?
No,
Okay.
no. No, we just did over what was done before.
Okay.
Any other questions of Bill? Anything else, Bill?
Just, well, I just went over the blacktopping and the resurfacing has been completed within the county, so everybody knows. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else for good of the county? Please state your name.
My name is Pat Carter. I live at Hibbertsville. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'd like to just read this because sometimes I kind of roam around.
No problem.
All right. First of all, a little background. I was born and raised in Henderson County. I've lived in Hibbertsville area since I was 16 years old. I married a Hibbertsville born and raised man in 1966. After living a couple of years in rental houses in the Hibbertsville area, My husband and I bought our home in 1978. In 2006, after retiring from Alcan Aluminum, I started a dog kennel to board and train field trial bird dogs. This, though thriving, ended abruptly in 2010, and my bird dog training was confined to my own dogs unless I traveled to the other dog's location. I would like to bring your attention to the need of a noise ordinance in the County of Henderson. The City of Henderson has a 10-page ordinance pertaining to noise control. Any part, if not most, of the noise ordinance could easily be adopted or included in the county, as was done with the only part of the ordinance that includes the county, and that is for barking dogs. Dogs bark, horses neigh, cows moo, along with the sound of tractors and farm equipment during cropping season, and once in a while a distant sound of a shotgun. These are all sounds of country living. The reason I come before you today has to do with high-powered rifles and black powder guns being repeatedly discharged within a short distance from my house at a makeshift shooting range in a backyard. This has been going on for several years and lately has escalated to the point that I can no longer ignore or no way tolerate. Make no mistake, this has nothing to do with guns other than the noise they make. The saying is, guns don't kill, the person holding them does. The same thing goes with noise. Guns don't make the noise, the person holding them does. I'd like to give you a little background on me and guns. My husband and I own guns. We have been around guns all of our lives. In fact, my whole family owns guns, including my 7 brothers and 7 sisters. Half or better of us have carry permits. We were all taught at an early age to handle and shoot long guns and handguns with safety first, when, where, and where not to discharge a firearm. And this has been passed on to my 2 sons and grandchildren. All own and have great respect for guns. Approximately 10 years ago, this vertically challenged wee man, David Lee, his teenage son, his new wife, and her 3 teenage sons moved in 2 doors down from me. They started out plinking with a pellet gun, moved up to a .22 rifle, and graduated with high-powered rifles and black powder guns, with the use of a piece of plywood as a backstop and no understanding of the possibility of a ricochet. Excuse me. Then convincing himself and his buds that he was a great white hunter and an expert with guns, he set up a shooting table in his backyard and invites all of his buds to come shoot. At times, there will be as many as 5 men and young boys standing around that table, taking turns emptying their guns. This will go on up to 3 hours. The wee man even sights in guns for other people. He will sit at the table with 4 or 5 guns leaning against it and fire off 4 or more shots per gun. This will last from 1 to 2 hours. I know you're thinking this only happens during deer season, during or before, and you would be wrong, although that was the case in the beginning. Now he holds target practice sessions throughout the year. Most of these men are strangers to the neighborhood. Lately, when no one's at home, men will show up, go to his backyard, and start shooting. Most of the time when the shooting starts, it catches you unaware, and you better have good bladder control. One such incident happened November the 8th. The wee man and 2 others started shooting at 12 noon. It lasted until 1:45. He and his wife left as the others did. Thinking the coast was clear, I went to my dog kennels to feed and put up my dogs for the night. I noticed a truck pull up to their house. Knowing that they were gone, I didn't think much of it. Just as I started dipping up dog food, this man shoots and fires off another round before I could get out of the building. The sound in that metal building was deafening. My ears ringing and watering, I made a dash for the house. As soon as my head cleared a little, I dialed 911. The officer that answered could hear the shots as I was trying to explain the situation to him, and I was standing just inside my back door. Daylight was fading fast, but he continued to shoot until right before an officer arrived. Please don't tell me to deal with it and talk to the wee man. Been there and done that. In fact, that started a whole other problem. A couple of months after the high-powered rifle shots first started, 3 of my grandchildren were in my back lot, playing when gunshots started. The target was within 50 feet of where my grandchildren were climbing a tree. When I asked the wee man to please, and I really did say please, check to make sure no one is in the back before they start shooting. This was in front of several of his buddies. The wee man blew up and told me, and I quote, "This is the country. I can do whatever I want to do. If you don't like it, pack your shit and move." And then the harassment began, up to screaming, "Get your ass in the house. I told you to get your ass in the house," anytime he saw me in the yard, to giving me a double middle finger, grabbing himself and hunching at me and asking me if I want to ride, while 2 of his buds stood beside him and laughed. At the time, I was in the front yard with my 15-year-old dog that needs my help to go out and do her business. So I couldn't just walk away, out of his sight, as I usually do. I had to stand there and take it for several minutes. No one has wanted to approach any of this in fear of retaliation that has happened in the past, such as stock gates being left open, farm equipment being vandalized, and of course adding to the gun control controversy, including myself, after I was promised by the wee man, "I'm going to split your throat," while charging at me with his hand on the hilt of his knife on his belt and yelling, "I'm going to bash your head in." To say the least, I'm a little gun shy. We bought the lot and a broken down old house between us for an outrageous amount and put up a fence at his property line, just to put and keep some physical distance between us. And he had to move his target off that property, but placed within 10 feet of the fence. My grandchildren and great-grandchildren are still not permitted to play in my backyard, and I am leery of going back there with my dogs unless I know for sure he is not at home or it's too late or too dark to shoot. That also was the reason for no garden this year. After sneaking, ducking, dodging, and having the crap scared out of me multiple times, I didn't have it in me to go through that again this year. So I'm here to request that the constant gunfire noise in a county residential area be addressed.
Done? Can you give me your address, your specific address, please?
Yes, 17010 State Route 416 East.
Do you happen to know his address?
I'm not totally sure. It's 16,
It's 2 doors down from you, though.
well, there's a vacant lot between us.
Okay.
He's before me.
Okay.
So it's 1600s.
If you're looking at your front door, is he left of you or right of you?
Left.
Left, okay.
I'm the fifth house past the fire department.
Do you happen to know if your lot and his are both zoned residential?
I really don't know. Years back, there was a sign in front of my house just past the driveway that says city limits. That's been gone for a long time.
City of Hebbardsville?
City of
Okay.
Hibbertsville. But it's all, there's like, between the fire department and me, I'm the fifth house. There's a house on the other side of me. There's houses across the road from me.
And the reason I'm asking that is if Mr. Bishop would come up to the microphone, I have a question. Just guess, in all likelihood, and what was your name again, ma'am? I'm sorry.
Carter.
Ms. Carter's lot is likely zoned residential.
That's what I was about to look up. What was your address again?
17010 State Route.
And I'd like to ask.
Can
while
you
they're
give me
doing-
1 second to
Yeah,
look it up?
Mr. Gold, about if he's familiar with ordinances that relate to discharges of rifles in residentially zoned areas.
Well, I'm familiar with noise ordinances, and I have spoken at length with Ms. Carter about it. Anytime you're regulating firearms as a local entity, it does become a little bit of an issue because of the state has supremacy and, in fact, made it a crime for local governments to make ordinances that deal with the manufacture, sale, purchase, taxation, transfer, ownership, possession, carrying, storage, or transportation of firearms. It doesn't necessarily come out and say anything about the use or the discharge of them within residential areas. Many cities in Kentucky do have noise ordinances. Fewer counties do, but there are some that do. In fact, there are a few different ways to do noise ordinances, and they're always pretty difficult to enforce. Since the city's noise ordinance has been on the books, I can't recall a violation coming to court. There may have been one or two come through, but yeah, it's a difficult thing to enforce, particularly when they're written like the cities that includes decibel meters. You know, you've got to actually have law enforcement officers carrying around decibel meters, and a lot of times by the time they get there, like one situation that was discussed, they stop or the music is turned down or whatever it may be. So, in fact, there are 3 or 4 different ways. And since speaking with Mrs. Carter, I've been doing some research on noise ordinances, and there are a few different ways to do it. The prevailing way that requires the least amount of special equipment for law enforcement is a foot restriction from a property line, and then whether or not it is plainly audible in that foot restriction. But most of the time, what you see in nearly every noise ordinance that I've researched is some sort of time restriction. Most begin at 10 or 11 o'clock at night through, depending on the ordinance, about 5:30 to 7 a.m. in the morning, as that being a quiet time. That wouldn't necessarily address the situation that Ms. Carter's having to live with.
Well,
so I'm sensitive to that, but we'd be glad to take a look at drafting something if that's the pleasure of the court.
To me, it goes beyond the noise. To me, it seems a much more dangerous situation simply because in what I think amounts to a residential area, guns are being discharged often. long guns especially. And you've also been, according to you, threatened.
It's on record.
And as we look at the map here, I'm looking at 1710.
Where the white building is.
And which one's his property? 16966.
Yeah.
And just trying to get a determination on the zoning.
Using the PVA's website that I just pulled up, which is, I think, close to what Brent has pulled up, I used the measuring tool on that, and it looks like it's about 300 feet from front door to front door. Would that be about right? With that house in between the two of you?
Well, there's not a house, it's just a vacant lot.
Oh, okay.
And the lot that's between us is real narrow and fans out. My front of my house is even with kind of the back of his house. He sits closer to the road. His shooting table is just behind the back of my house, right across the fence. So I'm guesstimating that shooting table is within 100 feet of my back door.
Gotcha.
And when he first started, the target was actually where his table is now, was in the vacant lot, which in shooting that, clipped the corner of my property. And that's when I was talking about my grandchildren were there climbing an apple tree. And 5 guys starts opening fire, so.
Is there anybody else in the neighborhood who has similar complaints against this individual?
Like I say, the McIlvains, wonderful people, live on the other side of me. They own across the road from me. They've had gates left open, tractors vandalized, windows broken out of pickup trucks because they wouldn't let them go fishing.
But do they know this?
Yes, they have been in. They've got more or less a workshop right across from me, the place they have across from me, and they have been in the yard, and I've heard them talking when he started screaming at me to get in the house. I told you. And I know they hear it because they go quiet. So.
We do have a language in our county ordinances about noise. And basically what it says is that anything that rises to the level of a nuisance is prohibited. Now, that's a gray area, subject to judgment on the part of any responding sheriff's deputy. But there is language, and from what you described, could definitely be a nuisance. And as you heard Mr. Gold and Magistrate McCollum say, enforcing noise ordinances of almost any kind are very difficult. But I would like the sheriff's office to maybe investigate a little further about what is happening here, especially as it relates to threats. And Mr. Crafton's with us, and I may ask him to maybe do a little bit further looking and determine if, even beyond the noise ordinances, if some of these interactions approach something that the Sheriff's Department needs to address.
Well,
Judge, in point of fact, I'll state that the noise disturbing the peace portion of the Henderson County Code of Ordinance, with the exception of things specific to planning and zoning, generally only applies to dogs barking.
But there's another section that talks about restaurants and other establishments having noise that rises to the level of nuisance.
Retail premises not to be disorderly, that's 90-14, which wouldn't apply to residential.
But he has been charged with terroristic threatening toward me.
Okay. So that is a criminal charge.
Yes.
Harassment, disorderly conduct, doing some of the things that he's doing. But the problem the police have, or the sheriff's office has, is proof. You know,
Yep.
your word versus his word, and so forth. I would consider setting up some cameras, and
He does too, and he follows me around.
that's fine. I mean, you're not doing anything wrong. But if you got him grabbing his crotch and doing stuff like that, and you got it on video, and him telling you he's going to cut your throat or do whatever, take it to the sheriff. I promise you, Mr. Crafton will do his job,
Well,
and something will be done.
He told the sheriff's deputies that he was going to split my throat and bash my head. So
And if any of your neighbors would put something in writing corroborating what you've said.
I can try, but I almost guarantee that they will not get involved.
Might they be willing to take a visit from a sheriff's deputy and talk to them one-on-one?
I really don't know.
Back
But it's
in,
almost like it's your problem, handle it,
right.
you know. And
Back in the 60s and 70s, we had problems on certain streets and areas in our community. And when people started getting video cameras, the police department, I mean, we had bricks thrown in. You know, you get a crowd of people and you can't say who did it. Once the video cameras came out and people had proof, the police department was able to act, and it really, really helped.
Well, we put out several of these game cameras. Overnight, they disappear, so.
They,
Well, again, I think it might be worth another visit from the sheriff's department to you and Mr. Lee to maybe drill down on this a little harder. And
Would you have someone check his the backstop? It's a piece of plywood tacked on two 4x4 posts, and there's a dirt berm, maybe knee high. The target is this high, and so it.
Direction is he shooting? Can you show us on the map up there?
Yes, straight back that way.
Okay, so he's shooting towards the back of the property.
Yes, but straight in the straight line is the coal mine trailers and stuff is sitting. Plus, there's a coal hauling road that runs from the road here and makes a circle, and he shoots right into that road. Now, one time, a sheriff's deputy come out. He called him, not me, that time. And he went back and was talking to him, and he marched back there to show him his little berm. Like I say, it's not knee high. And this plywood standing up in front of it. And just as they went back to check his backstop, a coal truck went down that coal hauling road and right behind where he was shooting. And the sheriff's deputy told him that he wasn't allowed to shoot back there because of that coal hauling road. But that lasted a little while. That was back when they was still just really close to or during deer season. But now, like I say, it's year-round.
I appreciate you coming today. I'm going to work with the sheriff's office and Mr. Gold's office to revisit this. I don't think at this time a noise ordinance is the most immediate relief for you. I think we need to move faster than that on this. But I appreciate you letting us know.
It's getting harder and harder for me to mediate between two 50-year-old sons and a husband. And I've tried to keep it cool, stay out of the little man's way. I've got 3 acres right there. He's got less than an acre. And I was told that I couldn't prevent him from using his property. But he's preventing me from using mine.
I understand, and there are some good neighbor considerations here that the sheriff's office might be able to invoke. And anyway, I think that's the best course of action now. And if you see Sheriff Crafton right back there, please go talk to him a little bit. And,
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Two words that I have never in my life said or had a need to say. Please help me.
Understand. Anybody else for good of the county?
I just wanted to publicly say how appreciative I am of the road department and the parks department, Bill Hubiak and Mitzi Weber. They provided 4 people for us, my election department, to actually help us deliver the voting machines and also to pick them up. So it was very much appreciated by me, and it saved the county money. It's just another example of how we work together, things are better. So just wanted to publicly say that.
I'm glad that happened, and I always like saving money. And,
Did the machines work well? Everything worked good.
Magistrate Southern.
I'd first off like to thank the Sheriff's Department. I've had some issues in my district with littering and illegal dumping, and I've called and noticed a presence down there. I appreciate it. I know it's hard to catch them, and I appreciate what y'all do. I'd like to thank Renisa and y'all's crew. Y'all did a great job. We had new machines and come out flawless, so good job. Thank you. And I apologize for your problem you're having. I don't know the right answer. I'm very much against gun control, but you bring up good points that make you think. And again, I apologize, and hopefully we can get it addressed and something can. And the road department got my blacktop down. Been getting some good compliments. Appreciate it. Got a new bridge. Appreciate that too. And other than that, everything's good in third.
Thank you, Magistrate Moran.
Being thankful for things. Charlie are on the jail committee, and every time that we had a committee meeting last week, and every time we leave, I'm grateful for Amy Brady and all the work that she does. That's a difficult population to deal with, and it's just like a little small city and all the issues they have, and I am grateful for her and her staff and all the work they do. And I wish everybody had Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Magistrate Putman.
Thank you, Judge. Pat, nice to see you. It's been a while. Sorry it's under the circumstances they are, but maybe we'll get it resolved at some point. So, but nice to see you. Just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, Judge, and all's good in the fourth.
Magistrate McCollum.
I would like to say that statement about Hale. What Amy's does, you can't make up the things that happen out there. You just can't believe the different things. I mean, every time we go out there, there's somebody a federal inmate has thrown stuff you wouldn't think about on somebody. It's just incredible that what they have to put up with and what they do. They do a great job. I would like to comment that it seems like Tim gets all the bridges and all. I think since I've been here, I think every bridge has been done in Tim's district. I don't know what he's doing right, but he's doing something good. I brought up an issue last week, and Steve is working on that. We're trying to get some research done on the issues of whether we need to do a resolution or whatever. But anyway, so that's being looked at. I would like to consider another resolution, though, for the county that, and this sort of comes back from the Green River Road incident about the not having lines on our roads. I think as a long-term plan for Henderson County, and I'm talking long-term, 20, 40 years, 50 years, I don't know how long, it would be nice if we could put lines on our roads. We don't have the right-of-way to do that. What my idea is, and I've brought this up before, would be to consider any time somebody does anything or ask our road department to do anything that might touch the backside of the ditch, because we've got all our easements are, not all of them, but most of our easements on our roads are what's called prescriptive easements. That means they've been established over time. There's a statute that says that, based on that, the right-of-way is considered to be the backside of the ditch, okay, where that is. But if you're cleaning out a ditch, you're going to touch the backside. You may go a few inches over, you may go, and technically we're probably touching somebody out, doing something outside of our preview of what we can legally do. And to get that, I would like us to consider maybe if somebody wants something, they want the culvert replaced, they want their ditches ditched, they want something. Number one, I would hope we've got this where we have right-of-ways on the aerial photographs so we can, at the GIS, every time you get a subdivision of property, normally you have given that by the right-of-way, but whenever that plat, you've given that road frontage. So we're accumulating it that way as people subdivide their property and whatnot. But for those that have not done that, I would like us to consider requiring that we get a 25 feet from the center line easement from the person that's requesting that. If we can't or they won't give that, then they should have to come to court and ask us to. There are places where that might be in the people's living room because their house is right on the road. It shouldn't be there, but that's what it is. But they could come back to the court and we can say, that's one, like on some of those houses on Green River Road, 25 feet would probably be too far, even though at some point we need to do something about that. But I think if we made this over a period of time, we can, and keep it on the GIS map, eventually we can really make some strides in our community over the next 20 years to get wider roads, and it will help our trying to get new businesses in our community. It makes your people's property worth more. It will eliminate people dying on our roads where we've got the little culverts, the head walls, right on the edge of the wall. We've had several kids get killed hitting those side walls and stuff. It'll allow us to do so much if we've got the road right of way. And let's do it and be constant about it and let's get this done. But I'd like us to consider that.
Anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Master Barry?
I always have to go after Charlie now. Good point. Sorry. I want to thank Miss Carter. Miss Carter called me last week. She is in my district, and I really feel for you. I know that's a nuisance, but you can rest assured that the sheriff's office, I retired from there, and I'm not just saying that because of that, but they will do everything they can. And Colonel Crafton, there's none better. So when you talk to him, I think you'll hopefully see some light on that. Of course, you got threats. There's more than just the noise deal, and those things are really concerned me about the threats. So talk to him about that, and I think hopefully if anything can be done, we'll get it done. I want you to understand that. And thank everybody else for being here. Bill, Brian, Renisa, everybody back there is part of the county government. So appreciate everybody coming. Happy Thanksgiving, and everything's good.
Thank you, Mr. Gold.
I am very thankful to work with everybody up here and all the folks that make up what is this county government. I think it's a very effective county government, very efficient at delivering services to people, and I'm very proud to be a part of that, and proud and thankful to have the opportunity to serve as your county attorney. Other than that, I'm good.
Thank you. We're grateful to have such an outstanding county attorney. I'll tell you that. And I'll echo Steve's statement of thanks. This season of Thanksgiving, I think we are working well as a team in county government. The numbers reflect it, the services reflect it, and I think the people's trust in coming to us with problems and hope and trusting that we'll do something to help alleviate it is a signal of that trust. So happy Thanksgiving. I will make note that our meetings in December will be slightly changed. We're going to meet, of course, December 10th, right? Second Tuesday. And then to avoid the Christmas holiday, we're going to meet on December 23rd. That will be our second meeting in December on the Monday, and then that'll take care of this calendar year. It's gone by fast, really quickly. Finance Committee will meet at 11. And other than that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor can leave.